Unstoppable ist das Motto von unserer diesjährigen TEDx Youth und das versuchen wir auch über unser Format, über unsere Veranstaltung eben irgendwie sichtbar zu machen, Mut zu machen, Inspiration zu geben.
Ich glaube, das haben wir durchaus gemacht und wir sind 300 Schritte weitergegangen, als wir das ursprünglich mal gedacht hatten.
Die Menschen hier in dem Team haben so viel auf die Beine gestellt. Wir lassen uns nicht aufhalten.
Wir wollen nicht mehr Autos, sondern wir wollen mehr Mobilität für alle.
Ich dachte, ich bin die verrückteste Person, als ich vor diesen Interessenten stand und gesagt habe, danke, aber nein, danke.
Trau dich, dass du dein eigenes Projekt starten kannst. Was hast du denn zu verlieren?
Wir können doch eben dafür sorgen, Wohlstand und Nachhaltigkeit miteinander zu verbinden.
Was mir Hoffnung macht, ist, was wir als Gesellschaft schaffen können.
Welcome to our TEDx Munich, TEDx München's 2021. It's been a while since our last event. You just saw the recap video from May 2020. That was our last event, actually. It was a TEDx München Youth, and we invited young people to discuss and speak about topics they care about the most in a time where the world felt pretty uncertain. It was incredibly inspiring. Today is a special evening. We have been waiting for so long, actually, to offer you an evening full of ideas while spreading inspiration and brightness. To all our virtual guests out there, thank you for connecting. I encourage you to use the chat function and our reaction button right at the video of the video at any time to interact with our community and to raise the questions you might have. Just a few words on the code of conduct. We do not tolerate any form of discrimination, such as sexism, transphobia, xenophobia, anything that might just feel you harassed, please just speak up. It is very important to us as we are listening. And hello also to our guests at our studio. It is lovely seeing you again. My name is Melanie, and I'm a TEDx curator and contributor. I have the pleasure to be your host tonight. But of course, I'm not alone. Our team is here too. Jana and Andreas will be our community managers today. You will meet Florian Ziebert, licensee holder of TEDx München, later on. And hi to the whole team working behind the scenes. Today, we come together to get inspired, to discuss, and to listen. We are here today because we want to speak about possible solutions for the climate crisis and other worldwide challenges. As you might know, the UN Climate Change Conference of the Parties, also known as COP26, is taking place in Glasgow now. The world is watching how countries, institutions, and politicians are accelerating actions towards the goals of the Paris Agreement. The challenges are many, and they're complex, they're huge, and even that is an understatement. So as TEDx München, we asked ourselves, how could we contribute this week? We believe that inspiration and knowledge are key accelerators for change. So we want to introduce you to people that are working relentlessly and every day to find ways to bring us closer and find some answer on how to save our planet. Our event today goes by the name of Circular Minds. We bring together creative thinkers and makers to exchange ideas about the importance of circularity. and its wide-ranging consequences for our society and our well-being. The Ellen MacArthur Foundation states that the circular economy is a way to transform our current linear system that got us in this situation in the first place. I read, "We must transform every element of our systems, how we manage resources, how we make and use products, and what we do with the materials afterwards. Only then we can create a thriving circular economy that can benefit everyone within the limits of our planet." The circular economy gives us the tools to tackle climate change and biodiversity loss together while addressing important social needs. It gives us the power to grow prosperity, jobs, and resilience while cutting greenhouse gas emissions, waste, and pollution. Our speakers will introduce concepts on how to approach our societal and ecological challenges with their research in animate and sustainable materials, or by trying to spread the message and the urgency of climate change. I will be more than delighted to introduce you to our speakers in a bit. But first, we have a video of our second mayor, Katrin Habenschaden. If you've been part of our community for a while now, you might know we tend to think global, but we like to act local. Therefore, we asked Katrin to give you a warm welcome and to explain how the city of Munich wants to move towards a circular city. Video and
It is my pleasure to welcome you to this year's TEDx München talks virtually from my town hall office. This year's edition is all about the concept of circular economy and its impacts on climate protection and our society. There is no doubt that climate change is the most important and urgent issue we have to face now and in the future. Even in Munich, we can clearly feel the consequences of global warming. The number of heat days is continuously increasing as we severe weather events and droughts. We, as cities, are causes of climate change, but also strongly affected by its consequences. Therefore, cities have a key role in addressing climate change, and it will primarily depend on the commitment of local city governments to implement and to enforce effective measures to protect our climate. As mayor and as a member of the Green Party, I accept this challenge and our special responsibility with great determination. In Munich, we declared a climate emergency by the end of 2019. At that time, we also set ourselves the ambitious goal of making the city climate neutral by 2035. For the city administration, we even want to reach this goal 5 years earlier. Therefore, all our future actions will be based upon these goals. To meet our targets, we are currently drawing up an action plan for climate neutrality in 2035. We are continuing to develop our numerous existing measures and funding programs. But we are also setting up a new climate budget with a volume of 100 million euro per year, despite the corona crisis. To tackle climate change, we have to review all areas of life with regard to sustainability. One key factor certainly is the transformation of our linear economic system into a circular economy. Instead of wasting our finite resources, we have to reuse valuable materials and transform them into new products instead. In Munich, we have already put some circular economy approaches into practice. One example is the flagship reuse hub Halle 2. By selling goods that are collected across the 12 Munich recycling centers, Halle 2 extends the lifespan of useful everyday items such as furniture, electrical devices that would otherwise have become waste. According to Munich's waste management company that owns and runs the reuse hub, around 1,000 tons of items are reused or repaired at Halle 2 each year. That's quite a lot. But this is just the beginning. Munich aims to become a zero-waste city. That is a city that no longer produces any non-recyclable waste. We are currently working on a circular economy strategy and a zero-waste concept that maps out Munich's path to circularity. As one of the first German cities, Munich strives for a certification by the association Zero Waste Europe. We consider the participation of Munich citizens to be an important aspect of this process from the very beginning. Thus, we offered several workshops to discuss and develop creative and practical solutions for waste reduction together with our citizens. The results of the workshop will be incorporated into the zero waste concept. In this way, we can get many new perspectives and ensure that measures work. Because after all, the urban society's acceptance of implemented measures is key to their success. But for now, I am looking forward to inspiring approaches on how we can further promote circular economy in Munich. I wish all of you an exciting and inspiring evening.
Applaus for Katrin. Thank you, Katrin. If you're watching, I'm sure next time we will meet you in person. And so, we start with our first speaker, Rebecca Freitag. Rebecca is a former German UN youth delegate on sustainable development and a current ambassador for the rights for future generations. She's a sustainable development goals expert and an advocate for the young. She's a visionary and offers new perspectives on creating our future. This evening, she will be speaking about how circular thinking is interconnected with the SDGs. Please welcome Rebecca on our beloved TEDx München red carpet.
We did it! We did it! I can tell all the young people from my generation that we can stop worrying about the future. We got the answers. I mean, have you been to shops lately? Have you seen all those sustainable products? Or do you read the news where politicians are full with answers, such as banning plastic straws or exchanging petrol cars with electric cars? Amazing! Isn't it? Okay, let's stop kidding ourselves right here. We all know that true answers look differently. And I've been looking for those true answers for the past 10 years. I was so hungry to find a master plan that will get us out of all those crises. And I finally got it. I mean, we got it. In September 2015, something incredible happened. All 193 member states of the United Nations, so our world community, they have signed this, I would say even revolutionary, 2030 agenda with its 17 Sustainable Development Goals. Or in short, SDGs. They are not only about combating climate change or stopping our massive species extinction. No, these goals describe that future that we young people long for. A future where no one has to be poor or hungry, but everybody has access to clean water, to fresh air, or to clean energy. Okay, to be honest, like if we look at this goal like one by one, they are nothing new, right? But what is truly groundbreaking of this political agenda is its integrative approach. These SDGs call us to really see the synergies and use the ripple effect and to prevent the trade-offs between those goals. Okay, let's say you're a mayor of a city. You have to make a decision what to do with a disused open-cast coal mine. You, being a responsible mayor, of course, you go through all the 169 sub-goals of this SDG, and then you choose that option that has most benefits and reach most of the goals. So you do not build another shopping mall, but you create a lake out of it. Because in this way, you can restore the ecosystem around that lake. You can build a space for recreation for your people. And also that lake helps cooling down your city on those increasing hot summer days. So in the end, also you help achieving health for your people. That's exactly the spirit of the SDGs. One approach, several ripple effects. The SDGs call us to really not talk anymore about symptoms, like plastic straws, but really to tackle the roots of our problems. And soon it was very clear for me that I wanted to be part of that game change. So I applied to become the German UN Youth Delegate on Sustainable Development. And my role was not only to bring in our reality to the negotiation table, but I also felt I have to play the watchdog when politicians reported their progress on the implementation of the SDGs. And that progress really looked grim. It was one of those conference days where I got again so frustrated that I left the room, together with my young colleague Lindsay from Ghana. We wanted to get a coffee. We wandered through these great halls of the UN headquarters, and then she suddenly looked at me and said, "Rebecca, why is there so little progress with the implementation of these goals in your country? I mean, you have all the science, the technology, the education, a democratic system. Why so little progress?" And that question never left me. So I traveled through my country. I visited ministries, I visited scout camps, I visited banks and universities. I wanted to spread that new sustainability language. And at the same time, I was observing in how far others understood it. And this is where I discovered that there's something missing to make this work. So, Lindsay, here's my answer to you. We are missing the right mindset. Many of us are still stuck in a linear mindset that thinks in silos and simple solutions. And it is from that mindset out that they apply the SDGs, but obviously creating a mismatch, right? How does that mismatch look like? I came across 3 main mistakes. The first one is cherry picking. One organization said they contribute to the SDGs, and then they put up one SDG. And I was like, wait, these goals are interconnected. There should be at least a few other goals as well. They put up the goal on gender equality. So what's about SDG 13, climate action? I mean, it's proven that women are disproportionately more affected by climate change. Second mistake is scratching the surface. I was once invited by an oil drilling company claiming to be sustainable. Excuse me? How? Well, the transport to that drilling station is climate friendly, so SDG 13, and then working conditions are great, so SDG 8. Cool. But what is about your core business case? I mean, you're taking million-years-old fossil fuels out of the ground and then heating up our climate. This is not only greenwashing, this is rainbow washing. Third mistake, trade-offs. A food aid organization once distributed sugary bars wrapped in plastic to hungry children. I mean, of course, you do contribute to our goal of zero hunger, but at the same time, you contradict other goals, such as health, or reducing waste. You know, in Germany we say, this is old wine in new bottles. This is old mindset using that new toolkit, SDGs, without having adapted our mindset accordingly, our sustainability consciousness. But what does that sustainability consciousness look like? So I continued my quest for answers, and I visited indigenous people in the Amazon rainforest, because I was wondering, how do these people manage to live in peace with themselves and their environment for a couple of thousands of years without any sustainability goals or strategies? So I met Mirim, who took me through that jungle of plants that had shapes and colors and flavors I've never experienced before. Actually, it was the most beautiful place I've ever been. So on our way through that jungle, I was asking Mirim, what is it that my society has forgotten? What is it that you still apparently know? And then he looked at me and he said, Rebecca, everything is connected. Okay, I felt a little bit disappointed by that answer in that moment. I was like, okay, it's a nice spiritual saying, but it's nothing I can really take and then go back and change something. But still, I couldn't forget what he said. So back in my world, I was looking for those connections. And the more I looked into it, the more they were obvious. I mean, let's say you're on a holiday in Bali and you throw your cup, your plastic cup, on the beach, and you think this has nothing to do with you anymore. Well, you're wrong. That plastic cup will become microplastic, will get into the sea, is eaten by fish, and eventually lands on your plate. Everything is connected. And as long as we do not apply this interconnected, systemic view to every action today, this action is not considered to address our reality. Talking about realities, I studied environmental sciences. And this is where I discovered another source of inspiration for this needed sustainability consciousness. It's nature. I mean, nature has always been here. So I would say enough time to figure out how it all runs well on this planet, right? No, but seriously, we can learn a lot from nature. We can learn how to think in cycles. We can learn about those complex and interconnected systems. Did you know, for instance, that whales can change the climate? When whales were being killed in large numbers, you could have expected that the fish and krill that they usually eat would increase, but it didn't. Why? Well, let's have a look at this rather simple illustration of a actually very complex system. Whales poo at the surface of the water. They kind of release their fecal plumes, and that is actually very rich in nitrogen and iron. And that fertilizes plant plankton. The more plant plankton, the more animal plankton, the more fish and krill. So the more whales, the more fish. And now we look at the interconnection with other systems, because plant plankton absorbs a massive amount of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. Actually, taking all plant plankton together, it's 4 times higher than the Amazon rainforest. So in the end, we see that one factor here, whales, contribute to several changes in different systems. And this is exactly how we need to see the SDGs. Taking the whole system into account and then looking for that one approach that can have that ripple effect on all other systems. What does it mean for us? It means we cannot replace petrol cars with electric cars and think this is it. Rather, we should question our whole system of mobility, such as, do we even need cars in urban areas? Or maybe we should even question the whole system of our cities. What about restructuring our cities so that we can reach everything we need for a good life within 15 minutes on foot or by car or by bike? The same is true for our energy transition. It is not a mere switch of technologies. Rather, it's a paradigm shift on all accounts. And there again is a chance. We can use this chance to democratize our energy system. So, for example, citizens can form cooperatives and then produce their energy. And this way, we can overcome the acceptability issues. I'm not here to give you easy answers, but what I can offer you is to take these glasses that I and many of my generation are already looking through. This integrative, circular, systemic perspective has to become the base of every policy, of every business plan, and every lifestyle choice, if you want to give our future a chance. If you want to be part of that sustainable future, well, here's an advice. Whatever your next decision in life is, go through that checklist. See whether all different aspects of the ecological, the social, and the economic dimensions are being integrated equally and not being played off against each other. Do you take the whole system into account? Do you see and prevent trade-offs? And then please communicate about this honestly. Avoid rainbow washing. Because we are all in this together. In the end, we are not here to tick some SDG boxes. We are doing it for us, for our well-being and the well-being of future generations on this beautiful planet, and hopefully also healthy and thriving planet. The SDGs just serve as a compass, but let's go beyond that. And let's discover collectively our sustainability consciousness. Next time, when I see Lindsay from Ghana, I want to tell her, we made it. We all discovered our circular minds. This is my dream.
Thank you so much, Rebecca. I am so proud, actually, that you're standing here. It was so intense, and I really loved it working with you. I hope you're inspired as well. Now, it's your turn. It's the turn of our online community to ask the questions. So maybe we start with you, Jana. Are there any questions? Of course.
Of course, there are actually a few questions. People really loved your talk, Rebecca. I do have a question from Julia, and she asks, where can like-minded people come together to create impact and the shifts, chances, and visions to give the future of the next generations a chance?
That's a big question. And I think the first step is to just speak up to it. I mean, I feel that this sense of we have to do something is something that we all in this moment feel. And there are so many different points, and you know the SDGs are large. There are 17 goals, and you don't have to like serve all these goals at once. You know, just pick out one or two that you like the most, that you have passion for, and then see how, you know, also can maybe link it to some others in order to have that integrative approach. But I'm sure you will soon find other like-minded people. And what I've observed that works well is actually as we already said, local action, such as cleanup days or food sharing, those things where you see a direct impact at the ground, but then still being connected globally and knowing that you're not alone in this world doing it.
Great. So we have time for 2 questions more. I would like to just look at you and see if any one of you has a question. Otherwise, okay.
Yeah, thank you, Rebecca, for this great and very inspiring talk. Like based on your experience, I mean, we see it again with G27, we see it with COP26 at the moment, or like even on a local level. I mean, Munich is aiming for climate neutrality. Still, we are the city of BMW. I mean, I came here by bike and like cars are everywhere, and I have the feeling that every day they get more. So why would you say, like, we have the pledges, we have like the science, like since the 70s, and still there is this like very great hesitancy to really commit to also radical change and radical like restructuring of our system towards a circular economy like you just described it? What would you say like are the blockers, especially at the high decision level, that really like prevents us from making the changes and implementations that are actually necessary based on science, and also like I think not just based on science but based on what we actually feel would be good for our personal living standards?
Yeah, good question. I mean, those big structural changes, they are the most inconvenient ones, right? So, I mean, you have to bring up a lot of resources, and politicians are afraid to lose their voters. So, in that respect, this is even more important that those voices claiming really those restructuring are getting louder and more forceful.
Perfect. One more question from the online community, Jana.
Yes, so we actually do have a question on your background. You said that you study environmental sciences, and Katrin is asking, would you encourage young people to do the same, and are universities ready for today's challenges?
That's a good question, because I currently also work as a uni lecturer, and I really can say that we do have a lack of the intersectoral and interdisciplinary approach. So I'm currently designing a new sustainability course, and this is like mostly the only chance where my students can actually access this topic. I really think that we have to, also maybe restructure our education system in the sense that we automatically learn how to also cross our borders within our disciplines, and not only have like this one sustainability course, but actually this topic should really be within every class. So I also feel like, okay, maybe I shouldn't only teach my students, but actually I should teach the other lecturers so that they can integrate that, base knowledge.
Absolutely reasonable. Thank you so much, Rebecca. Our time is out for now.
It was a pleasure.
A big applause, please, for Rebecca. So we can move forward. Our next speaker is Mark Miodownik. I met Mark last year, and I was immediately impressed by his research. He's an engineer and a materials scientist. He's a professor of materials and society at University College London, where he teaches and runs a research group. His research, among others, includes self-assembling and self-healing materials. He's a broadcaster and a writer on science and engineering issues. He was included at the Times list of top 100 most influential people in UK science. His book, Stuff Matters, was and is a New York Times bestseller. Mark will speak about the meaning of self-repairing materials and how they could become one solution for much more sustainable cities. So let's see if Mark is here. Hi, Mark.
Hi. I'm from London.
Can we see you, Mark? Yes.
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe. Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much, Mark, that you're here. I
Thanks for
can't wait.
inviting me. It's great to be here.
Yes, thank you so much. Now it's your turn. I'll sit down and then you can start. Have fun.
Thanks. Hello, everybody. I want to talk to you about how we build stuff. And we build cities, is what humans do. We build cities and infrastructure and buildings and bridges and tunnels. And, we've been doing this for thousands of years. And it's great and everything, except for the fact that we build this stuff and it falls down. And it's kind of the way we build stuff that is intrinsically the problem. And this picture shows what I mean, really. If we go to the slide, that you can see that, we build roads and they get potholes. We build buildings and they get cracks. We build bridges and they start to weather in the storms. And as the 21st century goes forward, this is going to be a bigger and bigger problem, because as bigger storms come, so they're going to hit our infrastructure, so it's going to get damaged, so we have to dig it all up again, make it again. And this costs a lot of energy and it costs a lot of resources. We end up having to mine stuff out of the ground, and it's not sustainable. So there must be another way. There must be another way of living sustainably in cities with roofs over our heads, roads, infrastructure. And that's what I want to talk to you about. It's the concept of self-repairing cities. Okay, but before I can tell you about that, I need to just talk to you a bit about material science, what it is, because it's kind of key to this. So this picture in front of you is kind of difficult to comprehend at first, so I'm just going to talk you through it. In the middle is a scale diagram, and so the big stuff is at the top, and it gets smaller, 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 smaller. Now on the left is living stuff. This is nature. This is how nature builds things. So you have big stuff like trees and whales, and then as you get smaller, you get mice, and then you get the fleas on the mice, and then you get the hairs on the flea. And then if you zoom in even further, you'll find that everything is made of these multicellular components called tissues, your brain, your skin, your liver, your kidneys, but all of the stuff on Earth is like this, until you get down to single cells. And then you have bacteria and you have all these things. And the thing is that you start out as a single cell. Everything starts out as a single cell. And it's kind of a Lego of the living world. But if you zoom in even further, you find that inside those cells are micro machines, molecules, which are constantly busying around, making the cell do the thing it does. And right in the center of that is DNA, which is the code for the cellular machinery. And so we live in this sort of multi-scale world. We're not aware of all these different scales below us and even above us most of the time, but that is the reality. And the real genius of nature's stuff is that it builds it from very few ingredients, mostly sort of carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, and a few other things. And it's fully recyclable. So everything dies, but then it's the building blocks for the next generation of stuff. It's a really remarkable system. But not just that, it does something else. You and I, we have constant systems at the subcellular level, at the cellular level, at the tissue level, constantly monitoring whether the system above it and below it is behaving correctly. If it's damaged, there are systems to repair it. So we're constantly self-repairing ourselves. We wouldn't live a day if we didn't have these systems. And most of life does that. So you've got this breathing self-repairing going up and down the scale. Now, if I look at the other side of the diagram, you have sort of human materials, and it's a triumph, and it's still full of all these different structures, big buildings and cars and phones. Amazing, the smartphone, isn't it? I mean, that's a real triumph. And if you zoom into it, you get this little wire, and you zoom in further, you get these tiny little machines called micro machines. That's how the phone knows which way up it is. And there's crystals and there's transistors, billions of them, all connected, little brain, little artificial brain, incredible stuff, nanostructures, and also all the atoms that we've kind of dug out of the earth and worked out what they do, and chemistry in general, incredible. But what we haven't done is do what nature can do. We haven't managed to get each of these scale of structure, which builds all this technology, we haven't got them to talk to each other and to repair them. And also what we haven't done is to get them to be a recyclable system. like we utterly failed to do that. So these are the things we need to do. And if we do it, then we can make stuff that will heal itself, and then we can start to build cities that are going to be robust in the future. So I want to show you a bit of stuff of how we've done it, how we're moving towards this. So asphalt roads, okay, it sounds mundane, boring, but actually if you don't have roads, you really have very little. And you really need functioning roads to have civilization and to have the wealth of stuff that you all take for granted, we all take for granted. And if we look at the same scale of a road, you have big stuff, the road, and of course we have the problem, the potholes that start to form. If you zoom in further, you'll get the smaller stuff, little cracks, they almost are there from the beginning. If you zoom in further, you'll find it's actually a combination of a liquid and stones, aggregate so-called. And the liquid is called tar. You zoom in further, and that tar has got structure in it. And it's actually incredible that you zoom further and further, and you find actually little micelles. And these are things that look like cells. And in fact, of course, it's not surprising. This stuff comes from old cells, millions of years old, and it self-assembles again as soon as you put it back together. Incredible. And so what happens is there's a whole load of self-repairing machinery down here that is already working in the roads. And in fact, when you put a new road down and small cracks form at the small scale, they heal up. The stuff heals itself. It's an incredible thought. But what happens with the weathering, so hot, cold, water gets in and so on, ice forms, is that you get little cracks forming, and they will heal up, except after a certain size. And then there's a runaway problem, and you get these massive potholes, and the whole thing falls apart. And then you have to basically redo the whole road. So we thought, well, what if you could intervene? What if you could make sure that when the little cracks form, they get healed? How can we do that? Well, our first thought was to do something maybe a little bit, obvious, which is to get a 3D printer to print material into the cracks. And it sounds an obvious thing to do. It's not that easy, but we managed to get it to work. And you can get we got to put it on a road vehicle or on a drone. So the drone flies down, it spots little cracks, and it starts to repair them. And that works, but and our thought was, well, for the big stuff, we can have drones flying up and down like flocks of birds, and they just sit with solar power recharging them on lampposts, and they fly up and down motorways and roads. And when they spot a little crack, they just look left and right, make sure there's nothing coming, zoom down and repair it. And that kind of autonomous system with robots around a city is one way to do this problem. But we thought actually there's a kind of cleverer way to do it, a more high-tech way, but probably a better way to do this, which is to supercharge the self-healing mechanisms that are already in a road at the micro level and get them to work better. And various people have had a go at doing this. In the Netherlands has been really pushing this approach forward the most, but in the UK we've also got work doing it. And I'll tell you a bit about it. So what you can do is you can put stuff inside the road. In the case, you can put little bits of metal or little capsules of oil, and they sit there and they're perfectly fine. And then you get, all you have to do is pass over it with a vehicle, an electromagnetic charge, and it heats up the little bit of metal. And because it heats it up, it gives the local tar some energy, and that little tar flows into the little cracks. So by driving down the road once a month, and this experiment is ongoing in the Netherlands, you can get a road to last much longer. Instead of lasting 10 years, you can get it to last 20 years. With the capsules, what happens is a crack opens up the capsule, it bursts open, and there's some more little tar oil in there, and that then fills the crack and helps the self-healing molecular structures do their job. So you can see that although this is baby steps, this is a way to really make our cities, in this case the roads, look after themselves. And the thing is, if you can stop the cracks forming at the early stages, then you stop the big potholes forming. And that really is the crucial thing here. Once they're formed, it's really difficult to do anything about it. And of course, big storms come in and full of water, and you're really in trouble. And that's, of course, how we operate, right? the reason that we are healthy most of the time is because our body's constantly spotting problems and intervening without you constantly ever knowing it, right? You have a whole immune system. And so this immune system idea is what we want for cities. And it's going to be embedded in the material. And what do we call that type of approach? We call it an animate material. And this is a much bigger idea than just repairing roads. This is really the future of everything we now build in the future. So come back to this sort of comparison between the living world and the non-living world. And I think that's going to get blurred. So we're going to have more and more things that look after themselves. They're not alive per se, but they're going to have autonomy. They're going to have dynamic abilities. They're going to be able to make decisions. Now that sounds an odd thing. How can a material make a decision? But let's just look at this diagram again. If you think living materials, okay, so trees, we recognize that they have autonomy, right? They obviously grow themselves. They have molecular things inside them that are doing that. Unless you think there's some intrinsically different physics in the living world than the rest of the world, if life itself, this ability to have living stuff is some extra thing, extra bit of science. But we don't believe that. We believe that actually all the science is there. It's the same science that we build our same materials from. It's just that life has managed to get information to flow up these different scales. And when I say information, I mean little signals. And of course, at the different scales, it's taking in this signal and computing some answer. Now, this is all subconscious, obviously, unless you think trees are conscious. And of course, whales have a certain consciousness and mice have a certain consciousness. And we would like to think our own consciousness is sort of greater than theirs. But this may be we may be fooling ourselves here. So I think it's about being humble, really realizing how amazing life is, but also taking the example of that and saying, well, look, life is robust and has lasted for billions of years because it's constantly repairing itself. It's constantly rebuilding itself. And it works from the bottom to the top to do that. And what we haven't done in human technology is do that yet. We've managed to do very amazing things like make mobile phones and smartphones and go to the moon and make huge buildings and glass structures and incredible cars, as in BMW cars, no doubt, and the most amazing cars. But what we haven't done actually is change the paradigm completely. And you call it, of course, you think, well, okay, life, it has energy, right? Life is constantly getting energy from its environment, but that's also totally possible. In fact, we know we can do that already. They're called solar cells. And that's just one way in which we have energy harvesting materials. But what we haven't done with the solar cells, they're really dumb, actually. Just put this thing on the outside of a house or a roof, and it basically just gets older and older and gets more damaged. What we don't do, and we need to do, is make those solar cells use a little bit of the energy they're harvesting from the sun to constantly look at the solar cell array and see where it's damaged and to repair that damage. Then where you can have a solar cell roof that will last 100 years or maybe 1,000 years, instead of at the moment where you'll notice that almost all the renewable technology you're putting in now has no end of life. No one's really thought how it's going to be recycled in the future. That's a problem for the future generation. And two, it doesn't have a very long life because it's constantly decaying, big storms come, and it has no way of repairing itself. So the paradigm shift is renewable technology infrastructure that not only knows it's damaged, but can repair itself by harvesting energy. So it may sound mad, but it is actually inevitable. I don't see a way in which we can go forward and not do this. We know we can do it. We know it's possible because nature does it. We actually have all the amazing engineering to be able to engineer at different scales. What we haven't done is just put 2 and 2 together yet. So I would say a sustainable city of the future is going to be a self-repairing city. It probably will have many different levels of self-repairingness. I think there is a role for the drones that fly around and repair big stuff and intervene at a bigger scale. In the same way, there's a role for surgeons in our own health. Occasionally you get so ill, you have to go to hospital, they have to open you up. So I think there's a role for the big stuff, the drones, but I think mostly what we're going to need to build is self-repairing materials. And this diagram really shows you where we've come from. Like when we first started on this planet, we had rocks and flints, and we invented glues and ceramics and metals, and we named the ages of civilization after those materials. But as we move forward, so we've made them more and more sophisticated, and our cities and our infrastructure's got more sophisticated. And it looks a bit like this now with nanotechnology and smart materials. But actually, self-healing materials, animate materials, this is the future. And our cities may look very, very different then. And that's going to be quite exciting. So I'll hand over to Mel for questions. Thank you for your patience, and looking forward to talking to you more about this.
Thank you so much, Mark. That was 10 minutes, so I'm wondering how your students feel after 2 hours or a couple of hours of your lectures. Wow. It is amazing seeing you again. Thank you so much. We will move forward to the questions, but I would like to start actually with our audience here. Is there any... yeah, okay, I thought... Good. There is a question.
Hello, I'm Simon. Thank you for this amazing presentation. What I was wondering all the time, so I completely get your point, but I'm thinking, is there anybody in regards to the people building roads and cars and anything right now, don't you scare them with your ideas? Because I think they want to continue building cars and roads and don't want them to repair themselves, right?
Yeah,
so,
it's a massive disruptor for all the current paradigms. And in fact, when we first started doing this work, we contacted all the road building companies because we thought they'd be so excited about this, and they would want to fund our work, and they absolutely had no interest at all in it. And it's because they're making loads of money. They make roads and they fall apart, and then they're employed to make the same road again. I mean, it's great for them. The problem is a huge amount of CO2 emissions have to be injected into the system, and you have to keep digging the roads up. And in fact, the future of not digging the roads up would save a lot of CO2 emissions, just because the traffic jams really they themselves create lots of CO2 emissions. So you're right, it's a disruptive technology, and so far we haven't had any big backers of industry for this.
Thank you so much. Shall we just continue with the online community questions?
Yes, thank you so much, Mark. The chat is on fire, actually. You have a lot of fans here. So there's one question from Sandrine, and she's asking, is there a city you could name that is close to self-repairing, or what city will be the first?
Yeah, so I didn't talk about self-repairing concrete, but this also exists, and there are quite a few cities. I mean, I'd say in terms of countries, I'd say the Netherlands is the furthest ahead. They've been pioneering self-repairing concrete and self-repairing asphalt for a while now. They actually have roads and motorways with it on, and they're testing them. In the UK, we also have a part of one of our big motorways has got self-repairing asphalt on it, and more people are using self-repairing concrete to build structures that they don't want to have to go back to. So, big bridges over big bits of water, where actually to get back in there to repair them after a big storm would cost a huge amount of money, have to close them down. And the thing about the self-repairing technologies at the moment, it costs more money to build with that. And so people often won't, they're not enthusiastic to spend the extra upfront. But now we're seeing the business models sort of showing that actually over the long term, that will save you money as well as save you in terms of materials.
Thank you, Mark. I think we will allow another question.
This one's also from her. So from a consumer perspective, how are we going to turn around the throwaway economy? So how can we, as consumers, actually build pressure on big industries?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a crucial question here. And it's about value. I think we have this idea that if you buy something cheaply, and a lot of the stuff in our houses got cheaper and cheaper, that we're somehow wealthier. But actually, if you're just if your washing machine, you're going to need a washing machine for your whole life. Like, who's not going to want to wash their clothes? Everyone is. So a washing machine that lasts 50 years is a really good thing to have. And who wants to constantly replace it? Like, really, do we really need 500 different types of wash cycles? Do we really need that? And so I think we have to reevaluate what innovation is. And we have to define innovation as sustainable tech. And as soon as you put innovation as sustainability and you ask the companies to go and innovate, but when we say innovation, we now mean you have to be sustainable. I want a washing machine that lasts me 50 years. They'll do it. They're brilliant engineers. I work with them. But we haven't told them that as citizens. And we need to say that loud and clear. Now, how do we say it loud and clear? Well, we demand, we just don't buy stuff that falls apart. We have to have a repairability index on our stuff. We have to communicate to all the companies that it's not good enough to sell us something that is going to only last 2 years. They can't sell us smartphone, which the battery is glued in there, when they well know that the battery will run out in 18 months. It's ridiculous.
Okay. Oh, we have another question. A very quick one. Mark, a very quick one.
Hi, Mark. Thank you very much for that inspiring talk. Just very quickly, my name is Margarita, by the way. I was wondering if Munich was, say the city of Munich really liked your idea and wanted to, sort of integrate it into their circular economy strategy at a longer term. Let's say, okay, I'll repair in city. How should they go about it? Okay, what would be the steps that a city hall or anyone in government should actually take to sort of get into this self-repairing city, track or?
I think there's two things. There's a twin track. One is the innovation track, which is about developing the technology so it meets the needs of your city. And I think it's identifying which of the most important materials that are having the biggest impact and that need attention. And we already know that concrete and asphalt are two key ones. But we've actually gotten a long way on those fronts. So we have that to offer. Then we need the business model. So this is the interesting thing. You have to change the definition of good value for money in terms of city. So cities that are constantly digging up the roads, they are hemorrhaging money, and it goes on and on and on. And they're also hemorrhaging CO2 emissions, and they're hemorrhaging, environmental damage. As soon as you put a price on that, and you say we don't want that, so now we're going to use that money, and we're going to have a road that lasts twice as long. We're going to have a road that lasts 10 times as long. Then you can change the capital investment, and you can start adding self-repairing right from the beginning, and that's the way to deliver it for the city. So it's the money and the environment innovation, they have to go together.
Perfect. We can follow up on that on another time, Mark.
I'd love to.
It's always, yeah, I guess, I bet. It is always so good to see you, and I'm sure we will see each other again soon. Maybe in person someday. You're more than welcome to visit us at any time. Thank you, Mark.
When we have the first meeting of the self-repairing Munich meeting.
Yes. We'll have you there.
Great.
Okay, thank you so much. That was Mark. I don't know how you're feeling. I'm feeling overwhelmed actually by our first speakers. That's why I want to give us some time now. I want some warm and inspiring music tones right now. And that's why I would like to invite Zaguru, a very talented songwriter from Munich, to the stage to, just entertain us and just let us some time to breathe and to think. I want to say a couple of sentences to him. While talking to him earlier, I asked, okay, so what do we actually expect from you? And we were very poetic. So he started saying, the beginning of the day, the light, the autumn. He writes songs that hold great width, songs that are melancholically dark, but also always contain a sense of departure, a view, clarity and lightness. The moment after rain. So get ready to be carried away by soul-touching music. Welcome and thank you so much.
Howling to the moon at night, craving for more sleep. Take me away from here, spinning your dream wheel. Oh, 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 take me away from here, spinning your dream wheel. Oh, one more word will bring turmoil to my world, complete the curse. Looking peaceful but disturbed. Oh, one more word will bring turmoil to my world. Accept my defeat, beginning to sleep. I let the wind divide my cells and I cease to be. Thank you. Well, thank you very much. It's such an honor to be here among so many inspiring people. I really enjoyed the talks before me, and I'm really glad that I am allowed to play here tonight. I have a second song for you. It's called Personal Lullaby, and yeah, I hope you enjoy it. Thank you. Why sense anger behind your eyes? Let me time a place to meet you at. These thoughts will no longer torture. Take some time off and ease your mind. Our deep tugs only scratch the surface. We mesh like yellow and blue. Now you turn red when we meet, and I seem to be colorblind. I'm drowning in my agony. It's gonna hurt less in retrospect. Hindsight's always 20/20. Oh, nothing's ever guaranteed. Sleepless nights and empty rooms. You can hear it climbing up the stairs. Then a twisted knife in your wounds. Oh, yellowed memories may cause a smile, but honestly it just feels forced. When will the gyroscope lose some speed? Gotta face myself. Gotta face myself. Gotta face myself. You don't need a dancing to find back home. Drifting unconscious for too long. You don't need a dancing far back home. Drifting unconscious for too long. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think it was very beautiful, and I think it was a very meditating moment after the content we just heard. There is a question actually I want to ask you, and I found on your website, I think that you write songs with what you call a sense of departure, this kind of like a feeling you have. And I want to ask you first, what do you mean by that? I think I know it's a beautiful feeling, but maybe we can hear it with your words. And then, is that where you find your inspiration from this departure feeling?
Well, the songs I write are actually the state of mind that I'm in, or the situation that I'm in right now, because I'm in my mid-20s, and it's a lot about leaving your parents' house and finally finding the place where you want to be or where you aim to be, something like that. So it's kind of being in limbo, somewhere in between, but don't really know whether your location is where you want to be. So it's leaving without knowing where to go.
That's beautiful, right? A big applause again.
Thank you.
We can listen to your music on Spotify, is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. I
Perfect.
actually have a few new songs coming out in the next few weeks. So
perfect.
if you liked it, I'd be really grateful if you listen to it again.
Okay, so we follow you, follow him on Spotify and, sorry?
The name again.
From him?
Yeah.
Okay,
All right.
Saguru.
Saguru.
Yes.
Thank you.
Saguru,
Yes,
thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Okay, so for the next part, we have a mic takeover. I want to welcome very dearly my colleague Florian Ziebert and our guest Kilian Kaminski. So I'll leave the stage for you guys to come to me and have fun.
From my side out there and hear all those beautiful circular minds. And welcome, Kilian. I'm happy to have you, and it's an honor to make an interview with our next guest. Kilian is founder at Refurbed. Refurbed is a platform for refurbished electronic gadgets, I would say. So let's get into it. I found this old Nokia smartphone. It's quite not so old, I realized, after I looked it up in the internet. So I found that one, and let's bring the end of a phone like that and the beginning together. So it's well known that a phone like that contains a lot of really valuable raw materials. So wouldn't it be actually be logic to get all of them out and to use it for a new phone?
I mean, yes, logically it would be, but I think we already covered it in a couple of the talks before. The manufacturers make more money with creating new products and produce new products, and therefore they want to have a fast consumer cycle. And for this reason, the majority of each product is normally waste and is not getting recycled or collected at all.
So that means when it's not refurbished or when it's not recycled, what happens with our old devices today? Are they in some way recycled, and who is doing that for us? What happens with a phone like that?
Yeah, so maybe I'm giving some numbers on that because numbers always speak the truth, I would say. So this year we probably will have 57 million tons of electronic waste created. 2030 it will be 74 million tons, and this is the fastest growing waste category in the world, therefore e-waste. But only 17% get collected or recycled, which means that if we're talking about the resources like gold, silver, copper, whatever is in these devices, has a value of $57 billion US, which get wasted, which is not getting reused again. So this remaining 83% gets often shipped to developing countries like Africa or Asia, where they get or landing on landfills, and people in horrible health conditions have to or try to get some resources out of these products by, for example, burning the plastic from it, which also means that the health conditions there having lifelong problems for them, and a lot of people dying with the mid-30s. So it's a huge change or a huge problem because we as industrial countries creating the majority of the problem, but bring these problems to the developing countries to deal with it.
But how is this even possible? Are there not any laws who forbid that? Is this a trick to bring phones like that to Africa?
Yeah, so there's a law, for example, that you're not allowed to bring waste to developing countries or shipping them, for example, outside of Europe. But a lot of companies declare the waste as used devices.
Okay.
So declare it in a way that they support developing countries of getting more electronic devices. But in the end of the day, what arrives is just waste.
Okay, wow. So obviously it's difficult to recycle an old phone. There seems not to be a reasonable business model behind it. Why is that?
The motivation of the manufacturer, as I stated before, is that you change your device every couple of years, and that it's as difficult as possible to repair, because then they can sell a new device more often.
Okay.
So that was also what Mark mentioned before in the speech, that the phones are glued together in a way that you as a private person cannot change the battery easily. When I remember to my first phone back, I think I had this Nokia 3310 with this great Snake game on it. I was able to just open the back cover and exchanging the battery.
Yeah.
Today, theoretically, no private person is able, with not perfectly technical experience, to open up a device without breaking something and therefore destroying the device.
Okay. And why are there, in your opinion, no appropriate laws around that, forcing manufacturers to care about durability, spare parts repairability, and even make it easier to dismantle it? What is the reason why our governments are not acting?
Yeah, I think it's a really big question to get short into it. So I'm part of a couple of expert circles of the European Commission on the topic of electronics and circular economy in this regard. And I think the biggest problem is that the lobbyists of the big manufacturers are so well paid, and there are so many of them, that they influence often the decisions that are made.
Okay.
So the government's creating, or like the politics also on the European level, creating specific ideas about new legacy developments, but at the same time the lobbyists searching for all of the loopholes to extend this shift towards a circular economy as long as they can to increase profit during this time.
Okay. So coming back to us, what can we do? What smart choices can we make when we buy a new product? Is there anything we can do?
Yeah, I think, for example, if you literally want to buy a new product, there are officially already like offers in the market. For example, for electronics, you can buy in a smartphone, a Fairphone or a Shift phone, which offering a modular system. So the device is created in a way that you can just exchange one individual component and you don't have to open up the whole device. So that is for new products. But you also can look into how you can reuse devices, how you can extend the lifetime, which could be done by repair, by professional repair, in this case for smartphones, for example, looking into refurbishment, so that professional refurbished partners, repair partners, and rebuilding the device kind of in a way.
Okay.
And the product is like new. And of course, really, really important, you should bring back your old device into the circle.
Yeah.
Because in Germany alone, there are over 200 million smartphones in the cupboards of people.
How many?
Over 200 million.
200 million?
Yeah, so
make everybody more than
2.5 devices, kind of.
Three phones per person in Germany.
Because like a lot of people thinking about it, like I want to keep it because maybe my new device breaks or something, but then of course in the long time you have a lot of them, probably like you. I'm not sure if you literally even can use this anymore in a way because of software updates.
I was thinking about it, if it's an Android or an iOS phone, but I think it's none of both, so it's...
Yeah, so probably, I mean, even if that would work, the manufacturers built the system in a way that you do not get any updates anymore. So if you have a perfectly running phone, with a good battery, with a good system and everything, you cannot use it anymore because the software updates are not supported anymore, and so you cannot use your apps anymore. So you are forced to put away a perfectly running phone just because our new technology, the smart technology in the systems, creating us a situation that we cannot communicate anymore with our friends or our family. And this is also a really different problem next to the whole resource topic.
Okay, so when we all take our 200 million old smartphones out of the drawer, what should we do? What is the perfect place to donate it? Where to bring it when you want to recycle it? So I think there's also some smart choices.
Yeah, there are different options, of course, that you can do. I mean, I think everything which is not meaning keeping them in your drawer is already like something positive. So you can, if you have like newer devices which are not that old, for example, you can sell them back through buyback programs as an example, where like professional refurbishers buy them back and refurbish them. You also have the option to bring them to donation points where they recycle them, so they get the resources out of it and get a bit of money out of it. But also in general, of course, selling them through peer-to-peer platforms would be also possible. But there the biggest problem is that you normally not have the security that all of the data is deleted properly. So in the end of the day, it means bring them back into the circle so that the resources are not wasted, but the resources are used again, because resources are endless. And we have to find a solution to use the resources we have and not always extract new resources out of the earth.
Brings us back to your own business, Refurbed. So I can buy phones, laptops, tablets from your company. They are refurbished. What is the difference, let's say, in comparison to buying a phone on eBay?
Yes. So I think like the importance is that you have the option of buying new. And if you want to buy new, you should buy a Fairphone or a Shift phone. But you also have this important factor of that you want to have a status symbol. And let's say in Apple or Samsung, whatever the device names are, often status symbols.
Some would say there's even a difference in let's say, camera and features and stuff like that. I think,
for sure as well. Yeah, that's as well. But I think the shift, also when we're talking about the circle of mind, the mindset should shift in a way that we say, I'm proud to bought a refurbished device.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm not need always a newest one, but I'm proud to be the refurbished device. And so what we are doing is we are offering on our platform the option of you to consume electronics sustainable, which could be smartphones, but we're also offering kitchen products, household goods, e-bikes, TVs, whatever it is in the electronic industry. But the advantage of refurbishment towards something like eBay is that you have a warranty, that these products are professionally refurbished, and they are really sustainable because the lifetime of the product gets extended, which reduces CO2 emissions, but especially electronic waste. And there we have a different trust and security layer, which is above the normal peer-to-peer platforms in the market.
So it's technically checked, they are cleaned, they are the data is gone and stuff like that.
Yeah, so it's like, the data deletion is a really important factor, especially when we talk about smartphones.
Yeah.
I guess for all of us, the smartphones have more information than all of our best friends about ourselves. So we really want that everything there from the previous owner, but also from us ourselves, is deleted properly so that no one can recover it. And therefore, for example, we, on our website, we only work with partners which having certified softwares, which also banks are using. So that means that, of course, it's the highest possible security level that you can have.
Okay, so perfect, understood. Any questions from you guys? Otherwise, I would love to go back to Melanie. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Flocko. Thank you so much, Kilian. You'll have the opportunity to speak to Kilian afterwards as well. Well, it's time. It's time for a final speaker. Her name is Anna Goldhofer. Anna is an activist and a sustainability expert. Her mission is to do anything in her power to change systems, mindsets, and industries. When I met Anna, she told me that she's highly committed to take action, to empower, to learn, and to develop solutions which have a positive impact on our planet and its people, us. She's making change in a different way that you might expect from an activist. Today, she will be speaking about how each of us can make a difference and how industries should change to achieve that. So, welcome, Anna. Have fun. I'll leave the stage.
Three years ago, I was at a supplier seeing the production of products that I was responsible for. And besides seeing the products, what really struck my mind was the huge amount of cutoffs that was caused during that production. What is happening with all that waste? I asked. Well, it's getting burnt, they said. Why? I asked. Well, Anna, it's just always been that way. Big industries change very slowly. But since we're in the middle of a climate emergency, changing slowly is not an option. Time is running against us. Our planet is warming up faster than at any point in recorded history. And if that heating goes unchecked, it will continue to have a devastating effect on our planet.
And there's a recent study that shows that 3/4 of today's youth across the globe has climate anxiety. The youth is terrified about their future. And honestly, sometimes I feel the same. My future, the future of our planet, is at stake. Or as Greta would say, our house is burning. So actually the supplier was right, because the way that those products were made, they could only be burned. What I had seen at the supplier is the standard concept within today's linear economy. Take, make, dispose. We take resources from planet Earth and we make products out of them. The main resource for plastic products is crude oil. Crude oil is not only a limited, non-renewable resource, extracting it from the earth often also leads to major oil spills. And we've seen the pictures. Major oil rigs in the middle of the oceans, huge endless pipelines, and big refineries that exploit our planet. And sometimes I feel like we've almost gotten used to headlines about beaches and marine animals covered in black oil. So why do we still use primary materials then, you might ask? Well, it's cheap, it's easy, and it has always been that way. In this linear world, after we take and make, we dispose. And often we dispose within hours after usage. And in fact, the worldwide plastic waste, out of all that plastic waste, only 9% is being recycled. 12% is being burned or so-called thermally recycled. And that leaves us with a shocking number of 79% of plastic waste that is still sticking around somewhere, either in landfill or in the ocean. 79%. Isn't that crazy? And now speaking for the ocean, that makes up for 8 million tons of plastic waste every year. So that moment at the supplier, I realized that besides living a sustainable private life, I need to take action at work. So if you work in the industry too, I ask you to accelerate change with me. Instead of continuing with a linear economy, let's work on a circular economy that enables us to use our resources responsibly. Let's think in cycles. Cycles that bring the waste we create to new usage and that fuel the demand for secondary materials. Sometimes I feel like in our heads and headlines, we're already there. But we're not. I mean, you just heard it. We only recycle 9%. So how can we change that? I strongly believe that we as humans can always act in multiple ways. First, we need to act as private individuals. We have power as consumers, and with every purchase, we contribute to a growth in demand for something. And we can choose whether that's the meat or the vegan burger. And we can also ask ourselves more questions. Am I really aware of the CO2 shadow that is being produced by my consume decisions? Would I accept a more sustainable product with maybe less quality or a higher price? Am I aware of how to recycle my belongings, and will I actually follow it? Or maybe also, can I repair my stuff? Well, we ask ourselves all these questions, and I know we are all aware of what I just said. We recycle our paper and waste at home. We even go vegan. We buy bamboo toothbrushes and Q-tips without plastic. We do many things in private life, and we feel pretty good about it. And the rest, the bigger questions and the system change, that needs to be done by the industry and by politics, right? But who is the industry? We imagine it as big concrete buildings somewhere on the horizon, very untouchable. But if we look closer, the industry consists of us. In Germany, there are 45 million working people. And if you're, many of you are not only private individuals, but also work and act on behalf of the industry. So let's take that action and that mindset to work. We need to change the industry from within. So how can we combine that? How can we combine the action with the circular economy? Well, let's start with products. If you are working on products as a decision maker, a purchaser, designer, developer, whatever, let's talk about the products. First, let's talk about zero waste design. How can we really produce products with a minimum amount of waste, like no cutoffs, no unnecessary materials? If we do that from the beginning on, we don't even have to think about recycling. Second is the choice of materials. Let's ask ourselves, do I really need the primary material, or can I use secondary material that has already been recycled? Very often, suppliers or also people that we ask have those solutions in their drawers. We just have to ask them. And the second thing is also, let's choose the connections wisely. The materials need to be chosen based on their recyclability. Only in that way we can enable a circular economy. And that brings me to part number 3, the design for disassembly. How can those different materials really be taken apart with a minimum amount of effort and explaining? Like no inseparable connections, no glues. Also, at home, we cannot repair things if they're glued together. But on a more industrial level, also screws and seams are problematic because for an industrial recycling process, sometimes it just purely takes too long. And even to you, sales and marketing and marketeers out there, you can also ask yourselves, how can users really be informed and encouraged to actually do the recycling? How can circularity become a unique selling point and the use for secondary material a must-have? After I was at the supplier 3 years ago, I told my colleagues about my vision. I told them that I'm really determined to make this product that I had seen circular. I told everyone, and many people joined me. We redesigned and substituted the materials. We chose the right material composition that was fit for a circular economy. And of course it took quite some loops, but at the end, results were good. We had gotten rid of the entire amount of crude oil, and we had minimized the carbon footprint. After 2 years, that circular product had completely replaced the linear product that had always been that way. So changing products has a direct measurable impact. And especially in big company, I think what's great is that that impact scales up. But there's also immeasurable impact, like the motivation and inspiration that comes with it. Working towards a circular economy, towards the reduction of carbon footprint is what keeps me working for a big company. But what I've also noticed is that it inspires so many people around me to work on similar topics within their direct area of responsibility. And that's great. So the third thing that I've learned during this whole process is that we are all influencers. How you're treating the planet in your daily life, but also at work, it's being seen. You influence the people around you. You influence your family, your kids, your friends, but also your bosses, colleagues, and also your opponents. There is a critical mass on people taking action that will ultimately lead to unstoppable change. So today I ask you to join me in taking action. By stepping up, by not accepting, by questioning, and by being relentless. Let's not accept that it has always been that way when this way destroys our planet. Let's treat this crisis like the existential crisis it is. Time is running against us.
Very well done. It was super inspiring, and I am so happy that you're here today. I just want to ask you something for our audience. I know how old you are, and can you just say how old you were 3 years ago when you started, actually, when you were at the producer?
3 years ago, I was 25.
25 years old. She is amazing. I guess we have some questions. I would like to start with the audience now. Do you have any questions for Anna? Otherwise, we will jump to the online community. But I want to give you the opportunity first. I have many. Okay, so we will jump to the online community.
Perfect, yes. So if you have a question from Lena, so for people that are not from the industry, what's the best way to put pressure on them so they start to change?
Well, I think by thinking about our consumer behavior, that's one, by really speaking up, talking about it, but also really going to the streets and put pressure on industries, on governments. We need to raise those voices.
Yes, we do. We will take another question, Jana, if that's okay, and then we will move forward.
Yeah, so there's another question. What do you think is the problem why most people think it's hard to simply reuse, reduce, and recycle?
Well, I think humans like to go the easiest way. We are usually very comfortable, and the linear economy is comfortable, but in the big run, I think it will lead to a very uncomfortable situation. So, yeah, let's think further, and not only in a very limited, short time frame.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Anna. Okay, thank you everyone for making it this far. We're not finished. I know that the topics we are talking about today are not of the fun kind, but as David Attenborough said 2 days ago to our world leaders, he said in a moving speech in Glasgow, "We are after all the greatest problem solvers to have ever existed on Earth." And I think today we met some of them. So thank you so much. But as I said, I'm not over yet. We have a super special guest that I would like to welcome. I think he is ready. We wanted to we wanted to speak to a very dear colleague of us from TEDx Glasgow. There he is. Hello.
Hey everybody. Oh my God, I got around the shop. I love you guys. You haven't done anything yet. Does that mean it's over?
No, it's not over. No, it's not over. It's not over. The reason why we invited today Gurjit is because we want, on the one hand, give you some live insights about Glasgow. And on the other hand, we do want to demonstrate the power of TEDx. We believe that TEDx is a base for change, unity, connectedness. So that's why he's here. He's a curator and founder of TEDx Glasgow. Hi, Gurjit. How are you? Where are you actually? That looks, yeah, like an event venue.
I'm in a spaceship. I'm going to follow Bezos and I'm going to exit to Mars, guys. It's game over.
Is that the impression you have of Glasgow after today's conference? We all need to move.
It's been so incredible when a conference like COP comes to your town, because it's all your superheroes in your city not understanding a word of Scottish accent, and you can be the translator, you can hang out with them, you can do TEDx interviews. It's been 48 hours, I think, or 70 hours so far, and it's been incredible.
Amazing. I think all of us are following up on the news, but it's lovely to actually listen to you that is live there. So is there anything that you would like to say about Glasgow, maybe an experience you just had, or meeting someone, one of your superstars? What are like the 2-3 insights you would like to give us from Glasgow?
Yeah, the first thing is have hope.
Powerful.
The second thing is embrace the change.
Yes.
And the third thing is hold people accountable.
Mm-hmm.
That's the big things that we've been hearing. So have hope, because there is many solutions out there for this very complicated problem. Hold people accountable. Ultimately, it's finance that drives everything.
Yeah.
So either we become activists within the financial institutions, or we persuade people that are in the institutions to become activists, and they are slowly learning that they have to be. And then it's become someone that embraces change.
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't have to be behavior change. There's other ways of reducing your carbon footprint.
That's amazing. I think that is indeed very powerful. And I hope that when it's over, we, we'll have something to work on. We have a lot to work on, actually. But maybe after the conference, it makes it a little bit more clear. My second question to you is, sustainability has been an important topic for TEDx, for TED. As I said in the beginning of this event, we believe that inspiration accelerates change, which we definitely need. You hosted a couple of weeks ago a countdown event, Make It or Break It, correct? With a focus on sustainability. So my question to you is, what ideas struck to you the most? And is there anything that we need to know about that event?
Yeah, so it kind of relates back to what I was saying about there is solutions, there is hope, we can solve this problem, we need to embrace the change. We ourselves need to become the activists and be brave. And then we need to hold people accountable. We need to hold our financial institutions accountable. We need to hold our employers accountable. We need to hold our government accountable, because ultimately we're the people that's responsible for all of these institutions' existence.
Yeah.
And now there seems to be a groundswell of enough people realizing that it's make or break. And not only for the future generations, it's also for their generations. I mean, we saw the flooding in Germany, we saw the fires in Australia, we saw the drought in Africa. You know, people are realizing in this generation we're being affected. But I don't want to sound like very negative or dystopia. There is amazing solutions out there. It's about us embracing them.
Yes, and I think our duty also as TEDx organizers is to offer a platform, correct? To offer that platform to ideas sharing. Like it's a small step maybe looking at the challenge, but it's still one step.
Yeah, I think now TEDx has gone further and TED is starting to go further. Before it was a platform for sharing ideas and we were the catalysts and the conveners. I think the transition now is that we've become the activists. You know, we also have to be part of the change. So instead of ideas worth sharing, it's more about engineering ideas worth doing. And the doing part is really exciting because the TEDx community is super powerful, super diverse, and super global. And we have great stakeholders involved in a very diverse community engaged. And it's our responsibility at TEDx to showcase the best of ideas, but also to try to be the catalyst for change, not only for sharing ideas.
Absolutely. We can write a letter to TED and saying, in suggestion, your new subline maybe. Sounds a little bit complicated, but I think we could give it a try. Looking at the time, I just want to highlight my last point is that, and please, I expect you actually to add on this, but I do believe that at the moment and in these times, it is important to be part of a community, to have the sense of belonging, to inspire others, and to exchange the ideas we just mentioned, right? We believe here at TEDx München, and we know that we are facing problems that cannot be solved by one person, or as we see in Glasgow, by one country. So for me, the TED and the TEDx community means power, correct? We are kind of like the living proof of this. And is there something you would like to say to our community, apart from just what you've said? Maybe just encourage them to contribute or doing their own inspirational formats, being an activist.
Yeah, I think people have peer pressure from their communities that don't understand an individual sense of purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really about being honest with yourself. And as you become more and more honest with yourself, you start finding your tribe, you start finding a new community that doesn't judge you on how much money you make. You know, it's there to support and help you live your passions and your purpose in life.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, you'll find that if we have a healthier community, if we're living longer, if we're eating locally, if we have clean air that we're breathing, our lives will be enriched. So climate change and climate action shouldn't be something that is negative or is depressing, or it should be something that enriches our lives, and we need to maintain that perspective. I'll give you one example before I conclude. If you want to reduce your carbon footprint, sure, you can go vegan, sure, you can stop using plastic bags. But actually, if you change where your pension is invested, that could have 22 times more impact than doing any of these other things. Or if you switch your energy provider, you can massively reduce your carbon footprint as well. And that's two non-behavior change actions that will have a huge impact on your carbon footprint. And we need more people to understand the impact that they can make, because the whole thing about carbon footprint, it was invented so that we feel as consumers it's our fault, but actually it's how we spend our money with institutions, whether that's our banks, our pensions, or our energy providers. That's where we can make the biggest difference.
That's amazing. Thank you. It was a pleasure talking to you today, getting to meet you. I know my colleague Jenna has had the pleasure to meet you in person. I'm very jealous about that. We will do that next year, okay? I promise. Or you come to us.
I will definitely come to you for sure, and you are all welcome to Glasgow. We love when people come to visit. We get to show our city, and the hospitality in Glasgow is second to none. So I hope to see you all here soon.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Have a good time and a beautiful evening. I'll talk to you soon. The end is getting near. But first, I would like actually to share our vision for TEDx München 2022. We dream and we think of a TEDx München Youth Festival in summer. We want to highlight the power of youth and present bright young minds to inspire you. The Generation Z and the ones to come, they are our role models today. Let's give them the platform they need to start listening. I will stop right here. We are still at the beginning of it. I just wanted to drop it, or we want it, because it's our vision and we're already planning it, and it's more than a dream actually. I wanted to encourage you out there to get in touch with us through our social or our website. We would love to meet you and to have more contributors and activists, as Gurjit was saying. So yeah, we are happy to have this evening with you. I want to proceed now with a very, very, very big thank you. Thank you to Limelight, our technical support. Thank you to Salarte for the food. Thank you to Andrea at HyperCon for the fantastic online platform. Thank you to Rebecca and Manuel for graphic design and motion graphics. And of course, and now I would like to ask my colleagues to join me in this very lonely platform or red carpet I am standing at, to join me because this wouldn't have been possible with you. And we have the best team. We really have the best team. So now please come here to join me. Okay, some last words from us. It's kind of like a letter that we wrote for you. So, dear TEDx München community, thank you for spending the last 2 hours with us. While we are fearful of the present challenges and the ones ahead, we are inspired by you and our speakers. Frustrated that we get to live in this situation, whilst very hopeful for the future. Maybe you can relate to anything of the above. And let's remember, as Rebecca was saying, we're all in this together. Let's dream of and work hard to create change for a bright future by saving the only planet we have. And now I'm quoting Anna, time is against us. Thank you so much for the evening. It was a pleasure being your host tonight. We'll see each other soon, and have a lovely evening. Thank you.